Good afternoon, everyone.
Happy anniversary to all the Franciscan sisters and all of our Franciscan friends who've joined us here today.
As a member of the oldest class of the Sisters of St. Francis of Dubuque, I welcome you to this celebration.
Over here.
Hello, I am the newest members of the Dubuque Franciscans. So I welcome you to.
We wish to honor the 1,008 sisters who have gone before us.
And to thank our God for 150 years of faithfulness to us all.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Sister Mary Lechtenberg, currently on the leadership team, and Janet May from Loras College. We will get us through the next hour, and you'll help us with that. We certainly thank the president of Loras College, Jim Collins, and the staff for allowing us to use this wonderful facility, and they've been most helpful in making all of the special arrangements. The steering committee for the 150th anniversary has been at work for over 2 years. Will these sisters please stand as your name is called? Just stand in place until I mention all of you. Marge Stout, Margaret Wick, Michelle Balick, Janet May, Ruth Schock, Charlotte Enright, Margie Feldner, Marion Ike, Edith Gotzeker, Susan Ivas, and Camilla Heeman. Thank you so much. And many other sisters and Franciscan associates were part of subcommittees, and that has enabled many of the activities to take place to honor this 150th celebration. If you assisted in any way, even helping set up today, if you helped out in any way on any one of these committees, we invite you to stand. Thank you very much.
With us today, we have some international guests. Father Udo Tilking is visiting from the area of Germany where our mother Xavier started our community. And traveling with him are Herman and Maria Glandorf. Would you stand for a moment? Father Tilking will now share some words of greetings with us.
Grüß Gott und guten Tag. Dear Archbishop, sisters and brothers, I bring you the news, the congratulations of your city where you have founded. And 11 years you have been in Herford, and then you had to leave Herford, and it was a grace for America that you had to leave our town. For us, is what at that time it was a great problem, and I have tried to say yesterday afternoon. I've tried to tell you a bit of the situation in Germany at the time, which was called Kulturkampf. Please excuse my English. It's the first time that I am in an English-spoken country. I have a I have a friend, I make holidays with him, and he prefers Greece and Italy. Perhaps I can convince him to come with me a second time to the United States. I bring you some good words, some congratulations of our city where you have founded. First of all, from our mayor. We people from Herford are proud that your order was established in 1864 for the Catholic community during heavy times of need. We can only suppose what effects the work of your sisters had if they could have stayed here, but they built the basis of a work that lasts till today. For example, the Bernhard Heising House. It has the name of your founder together with Mother Xaveria, which is a socio-education institution for children and young people. Moreover, the hospital St. Mathilde, what has been the idea of Heising too. We send our best wishes to you and God's blessings for your future work from the town of foundation of your order. Your Tim Kehler. Perhaps I had to read this letter before. It's from our Archbishop. Pardon me, you know our Archbishop Becker from Paderborn? You don't know? I don't know me either. He has written a long letter, only an extract. The Franciscan spirituality has its roots in the personal poverty that makes open for the call of God to give his love to the other people. Dear sisters, you do not keep for yourself the love that is given to you during the celebration of the sacraments and in the personal prayers, but you share this and distribute it to your untrusted. Especially in these days, this is a big testimony of faith and convincing confession of Jesus Christ, who became poor for our sake to make us rich. I sincerely thank you for all this, although you and all who are connected with God's rich blessings through the intercession of Holy Francis and Holy Clare. Your Hans Josef Becker. And it's possible that someone of you have this name, Becker. Perhaps there is one, because it's a typical German name, and I had the impression in these days I were among German. And there is the foundation of Bernhard Heising, which was a foundation from the year of 1852. It exists till today, and the president has sent you a letter. Across the Atlantic and over thousands of miles, we share the name and the life's work of our founder, Dean Bernhard Heising. In 1852, he has established the foundation Haus Bethlehem in order to care about children and young people and to encourage them, as well as to have a medical care of ill people. We wish God's blessings to you and your order, good luck and success in your work, healthiness to every one of you, and a merry heart. If you should one day come to Germany, we would like to welcome you in Herford. Some sisters have been there. Our sisters have now left last year, but if you want to come to Herford, we will arrange it that you will find a bed. thank you very much that we could make this experience in these days. Yesterday evening in the song feast, they said, for us, it was an amazing day. I can say, for us three, it was an amazing time with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We are hosting 4 sisters from Vietnam who are learning English and bringing so much life to Mount St. Francis. We invite those 4 sisters to please stand.
And our Dubuque Archbishop is here. Archbishop Michael Jacobs, would you just stand up, please? We're happy that you could join us this afternoon. And of course, we're grateful for all of you and your presence with us. And however you know us, we are so happy that you could come today. Although we have served in Dubuque for many, many years, all of your lifetimes, I know, we did not arrive here for 13 years after our founding in Germany. And so if you would please listen and watch for the rest of the story of our beginning years.
The Sisters of St. Francis of the Holy Family were founded in Herford, Germany in 1864 by Mother Xavier, sent to Germany to care for the poor and many orphans in the area.
Her heart was touched and her conscience was touched by the plight of the orphans. Pretty soon other young women came and asked to join her community, and by 1969 they became an established community.
The order eventually grew to 29 sisters working with orphans, the elderly, and the sick. During wartime, the sisters also nursed wounded soldiers on the battlefield. But in 1875, all the religious orders in Germany were either to disband or go into exile. After many days of prayer, Mother Xavier decided to leave Germany and find refuge in America. She and the other sisters would find themselves in Iowa City, Iowa, continuing their work with the poor and establishing the first Catholic orphanage in Iowa. One day on a train to Centralia, Mother Xavier met the Bishop of Dubuque, Bishop Hennessy.
That was another of those fortuitous meetings for our future, because Bishop Hennessy told her about an endowment from a rich German couple, and they wanted their money to go to build an orphanage. And the bishop wanted that to take place in Dubuque. And he invited the sisters to come. And we came to Dubuque and have been known as Dubuque Franciscans ever since.
And here we are, 150 years later, celebrating who we've been, who we still are, and who we will forever continue to be.
We are women whose lives are rooted in prayer.
We choose to stand in solidarity with those who are poor, whether in our neighborhood or across the world.
Our passion for peace and justice informs not only who we are and what we do, but also how we walk with one another on this planet Earth.
We approach all we do with a spirit of joy. We are women witnessing to God's love by our commitment to living the gospel values in all we do.
We have been and continue to be blessed with women of immense wisdom and vision.
Whatever the work we are engaged in, we are dedicated to providing the highest ministerial quality.
We strive to be a compassionate presence to all.
Gospel love leads us to live the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law.
For the past 150 years, we have placed ourselves and our resources in service to those who are in need at that time.
Throughout these 150 years, the Franciscans have served the people of God in many capacities. Our trees of blessings are posted over there, so in your break you might want to go over and look at those various ministries we've been involved in. Sisters, when I mention your area of ministry in which you were or are presently involved in, would you please stand or raise your hand? Education. Spirituality. Health care and care of the elderly. Social justice. Congregational ministry. Pastoral ministry.
I am Sister Camilla, and I was in charge of the service areas during this past 150 years. Not really. No, just since we started, we asked people to do service, and so that's what I'm going to report about. I'm carrying up this little basket which contains some of the reports. They're not all in here, but just an example. Many Franciscans, family members, associates, and former members and friends responded to the call to give service in honor of our 150 years. Service was provided in many states, from California to Rhode Island, from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Wyoming, Nebraska, all the way south to Mississippi and all the states in between. Then the borders were jumped as service was provided in Santa Lucia. Some worked alone, while others worked in family groups, teaming as friends, or in groups, as was demonstrated last Saturday, when 84 volunteers from Briarcliff University touched much of the Sioux City area as they did service in our name. And there are other groups and individuals who are still out there working on this and have not had a chance to turn their papers in. I wanted to give you a total recorded number of hours that served, but all I could say is I've got 10,000 hours plus, and the main reason is a lot of people send their reports in, told me what they did, but did not record their number of hours. And by what they did and the number I have, there are thousands and thousands of more hours that have been given. In reviewing all of the services, I saw that we could be categorized under standing with the poor, caring for all of creation, and building peace. Much service was given to the elderly, the hungry, the homeless, and the veterans. This was done in the manner of visiting, feeding, providing food, listening, playing games, and in providing music. Lakes, rivers, streets, highways were cleaned of litter. Gardens and flowers were planted, and yard work was done in mowing and in raking and in placing rocks around the trees. With all of this came lots of recycling. 2 people, for example, took on their post office and made sure all the junk mail was recycled. Various classes were taught to children, they were read to, and were mentored in a variety of ways. Phone ministry, counseling, serving on boards and committees, writing support letters at the time of death, shopping, painting, sewing, helping immigrants, laundry work for others were also things that were listed as the volunteers had done. From 3 different areas, men responded in regard to saying they had done extra volunteer training and working for their fire department. Help was given to shelters, Habitat for Humanity, Salvation Army, thrift shops, the Scouts, and many more. Last but not least, some just prayed for the sisters and for the ministries that they were in. Many of the service stories touched me as I read them. One that stood out was a man in a California city who planned, organized, and carried out a meeting in which people were invited to come, discuss together how and what they could do to reduce crime in their area. His first meeting had 1,500 people in attendance. In these past months, the service to others was provided by children, college-age and young adults, women and men, retired, priests, physically handicapped folks. It was done by Catholics, Jews, Protestants, and many more. One last story that is close to home here. A woman from Farley worked with 6 immigrant women from Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico as they made the food of their homeland, sold it, and gave the proceeds to the fund that was set up at the time of the tragic death of the 4 14-year-old boys in this area in this past August. I could go on, but they limited me to a few minutes. Thank you very much, and thank you for your ongoing service to others.
This stick here on my right is a peace pole. And peace poles are cropping up all over the world. And to tell us a little bit more about that is Sister Michelle Balick.
A peace pole is an internationally recognized symbol of the hopes and dreams of the entire human family, and it stands in silent vigil for peace on earth. Each peace pole bears the message, "May peace prevail on earth," in different languages on each of its sides. The Peace Pole Project was founded in 1975 in Japan by Masahisa Goi. He authored this universal message back in 1955 in response to the effects of the World War, especially the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And thus he has dedicated his life to spreading the message of peace. So where are these peace poles found? When it's planted, it links that community with people all over the world who have also planted peace poles in that same spirit of peace. It's estimated that more than 200,000 peace poles in over 190 countries in the world have been dedicated as monuments to peace. They're found in places like the Allenby Bridge between Israel and Palestine, Robben Island in South Africa, where Nelson Mandela was imprisoned, Gorky Park, Russia, Baghdad, Iraq, Machu Picchu in Peru, the Nevada test site here in the USA, and soon to be in Washington Park, Dubuque, Iowa.
I'm Sister Marie Seagrand, a member of the leadership team, and I'd like to introduce Carla Bragg, Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Dubuque. She's here to accept the Peace Pole. On behalf of the citizens of Dubuque, Carla, we ask you to accept this Peace Pole celebrating the 150th anniversary of the founding of the Sisters of St. Francis. The Peace Pole is inscribed in 8 languages with the message, "May peace prevail on earth." These languages are significant to the Dubuque community and to the Sisters of St. Francis. Meskwaki, French, German, Gaelic, English, representing the first inhabitants and settlers in our area, including the Sisters of St. Francis. Spanish and Marshallese, representing more recent immigrants and our congregation's work with Hispanics here and abroad. Chinese, representing Dubuque's sister cities, we already mentioned German, and our Franciscans congregation's connection to China. Just a little aside here, last week this peace pole was on display at Clare House, and one of our employees from the Marshall Islands, when looking at the peace pole, was very excited to see the message in her language. She said it helps her feel that she belongs. This gift recognizes the peace efforts of both the Sisters of St. Francis and the citizens of Dubuque. May this peace pole remind all of us to be instruments of peace in our families, neighborhoods, cities, country, and world. As our Franciscan rule states, as they announce peace with their lips, let them be careful to have it even more within their hearts. We thank you, Carla, for joining us in this celebration.
Hello. I thought maybe there was going to be a song. I am so pleased to be here on behalf of the city. I'm Mayor Pro Tem, and when Roy called me and asked me to come to this gathering because mayors can't bilocate, I said I would be so delighted. Because I said I'd be here anyway. I would just like to say that to the Franciscan sisters sitting in this room, you taught my mother, Vivian Beckman, in Dyersville, Iowa, in the 1920s, and her 5 brothers and sisters. You taught those little German immigrants to speak English. You taught them to read and go to high school and go to college and raise their children to want to have those same values. I myself am a product of Catholic schools in Dubuque from kindergarten through college. I had Franciscan sisters at Wahlert High School, and I graduated from Loras. And then I taught here for 34 years. So I feel like I'm sort of coming home, which is why I am so delighted to be here. I've also been involved in peace and justice issues in the city of Dubuque for 40 years, and I probably know most of you people in this room in some way or another from standing down in Washington Park holding signs. So on behalf of the mayor, the city council, and the 58,000 citizens of the city of Dubuque, I am pleased to accept this symbol of our commitment to peace and justice in the city of Dubuque. I'd like to just say happy anniversary to the Sisters of St. Francis. Your presence in the city of Dubuque has shaped the way this town has gone in the last 150 years, and I am so grateful that you're still here. Thank you.
In our history, the sisters cared for orphan children in Germany, in Iowa City, Dubuque, and in Sioux City. For generations, we have responded to the needs of our times. Sister Marie Segrand of our leadership team will share our most recent decision.
We'll share a little bit more than that. In 1983, the Sisters of St. Francis passed their first corporate stance. A corporate stance is a public statement or action made by the congregation and/or associates on an issue of human concern, social impact, or structural injustice in society or church. The guidelines state that a corporate stance reflects gospel values, the congregational mission, and issues of national or international scope that are of current concern. This first corporate stance urged total nuclear disarmament in the nation and the world. One action related to this stance was the 1986 declaration of Mount St. Francis property to be a nuclear-free zone. In 2010, this stance was revised to include asking elected representatives to enact treaties that mandate nuclear disarmament, non-proliferation of nuclear weapons, and a comprehensive ban on nuclear testing. A second corporate stance approved by the Sisters of St. Francis in 1987 endorsed sanctuary for refugees from Central America. Dubuque Franciscans support one another in welcoming the stranger in our midst. In 2011, the corporate stance on immigration was enacted. It stated that immigrants have God-given rights to be treated with respect and dignity, to work, and to access services that satisfy their basic needs. You might have noticed billboards sponsored by 10 Upper Mississippi Valley sister congregations or T-shirts displaying this statement. And if you were watching the video before, you saw Mary Claire with the little poster. It said, "I was a stranger," with the words "a stranger" crossed out. So it said, "I was an immigrant and you welcomed me," and it was signed Jesus. Today, I would like to announce the passage of our most recent corporate stance in September of 2014. This stance states that we, the Sisters of St. Francis of Dubuque, Iowa, and our associates, in the tradition of Saints Francis and Clare of Assisi, denounce all forms of human trafficking as criminal acts which violate basic human rights and exploit innocent people. We pledge to pray and work diligently with appropriate partners to abolish human trafficking and the economic and social systems that foster it. We continue to educate ourselves on all these issues and take appropriate actions. We ask you to join us in these efforts to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God.
To honor many of our milestone anniversaries in the past, we decided an action to mark each one. Sister Kathy Knipper of our leadership team will tell you now the action we are choosing to mark our 150 years as a congregation.
Today, I am pleased on behalf of the Sisters of St. Francis to announce that in honor of this moment in our congregational history, we are designating $150,000 to create a fund that will promote immigration reform and the elimination of human trafficking. A task force will be established to set guidelines for issuing grants from this fund in order to assist those who are in need.
Several co-workers and friends from the United States and Honduras have shared their hopes and dreams for the Dubuque Franciscans as we move into the future. Please give your attention again to these DVD interviews.
My hope for the future is that our sisters will continue their work in social justice issues in our community and in the church at large, and over the next 150 years.
Well, I feel like the income difference between the different people in this country is wide. In other words, the less fortunate are getting behind in comparison with those one having a lot more resources. Therefore, it's imperative that the continuous education for the kids of those less fortunate, in order to help them with the basic skill of reading and writing, which will be basic for them to improve their quality of life in the future.
I think they can expect more of the same things that they did and even greater things. And I love it because they have no racial boundaries, and I think that is awesome. And they taught Black history, and I think that is so wonderful. And they just go into areas where other people don't really like to go.
In 150 years, I do expect the Franciscan sisters to be present and living out the gospel of Jesus Christ. I would expect that certain of them are priests by that time.
Entonces y de aquí de estas zonas hay mucha gente que sale para allá y que cuando regresa o viene a veces peor. Vende todo lo que tiene. Sí, para irse. Venden todo y no logran llegar. Entonces vienen a una situación más difícil. Endeudados y...
And it would be, I think, a great thing to have
people who speak Spanish. Maybe that being in some future to have the sisters be able to stand with in that regards, to be able to minister to them in their own language. It would help greatly.
I'm sure the next 100 years are going to be, or 150 years, whatever, are going to be very challenging in this time of religious ferment with some of the rising Islamic movements and so on and so forth. It's also a time with, to deal with the environment, to God's creation, with global warming and issues like that.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to look 150 years ahead, but I think in the near future, I think they will continue to show the same commitment that they've had. And although I hear their numbers are going down, I think that that's really not going to affect their commitment and their work. I think they have a sort of detachment from results that lets them work, not without thinking about results, but not being controlled by it. And I think they can adjust readily to new circumstances. And so if their numbers go down, I think it doesn't really matter if they've got 300 or 100 or 10. They will simply make the adjustment to use their effort and resources in the best way they can.
And I would love to see them continue on the basis of healthcare and education, but maybe making it more of a mentorship along the education lines, taking it beyond the kids all the way through to adulthood, and allowing that person to learn how to be an outer beauty as well as an inner beauty. What also ties within that is learning a little level of self-sustainability. If someone knows how to grow their own food and grow it in a healthy manner, that actually takes care of a lot of the chronic ills that the global society has. And they will end up being healthier individuals as a result of it. Maybe even learning how to set up a small filter on how to filter their own water and not be so dependent upon a corporate water source.
In the next 150 years, I'd like to see the Sisters of St. Francis continue in their ministries of helping those in need, especially to those persons who are poor in body, mind, or spirit. I would also like the order to continue to be a source of peace, support, and friendship to all those they live among, work with, and serve as an example to.
The mission with all the message that Claire and St. Francis left to you is clear, and meanwhile you are committed to that mission. Everything's going to be okay. What God will provide you with people, with resources, and everything that you need for a better accomplishment of this mission.
I think we can expect from the sisters in the future what we've seen from them in the past, and that is for them to be able to adapt to the needs and the communities that they're a part of, to be able to relate to people on a more individual and unique level, and to be a voice for the voiceless in those places where the need is great. And while their population might be dwindling, that doesn't mean their effectiveness will decrease, because I think one of the gifts of the sisters is to be adaptive and again to go where they're needed and to be that voice for those who just don't have one.
Wow, just leave your spirit everywhere you go.
We have some Franciscan friends here today who will share a response to this same question. What do you expect of the Dubuque Franciscans in the next 150 years? You will hear from them in this order. David Harris will be first. He is a Franciscan associate. Nancy Hemiside is a former member of our congregation. Marilyn Dansert is a Franciscan associate. And last of all, Archbishop Michael Jacobs. So Dave, here you are.
Hi, I'm David Harris. I'm a pretty new Franciscan associate, and I'm honored to be here. With about a dozen other people, I was fortunate to be part of the first two-year class on the Franciscan way of life that was taught to us by Sisters Jenny and Sister Marcy. With that background, my reaction to the question of my expectations of the sisters was to ask instead, how do we as lay people carry on the tradition of the Franciscan way of life, as shown to us by the sisters for the last 150 years? How do we promote and continue the Franciscan spiritual tradition of the gospel life? The mission, according to Francis, to live according to the gospel in mutual care and love, living a life that bears witness to those teachings. The sisters have taught us all how to live that commitment. The mission statement of the Dubuque Franciscans calls for a life rooted in the gospel in the spirit of Francis and Clare, living in right relationship with all creation. Those voices that have carried that tradition for 150 years must continue to be heard. The Franciscans state that it's their expectation to stand with persons who are poor, to deepen their relationship with Mother Earth, and to make peace and practice nonviolence. I can tell you a short example of my experience as City Housing Department Director that illustrates the power of the women religious. Some of you in this room participated. This occurred a number of years ago when we worked with a coalition of sisters in a successful effort to overcome a very contentious relationship between the city and local landlords. We convened a process we called appreciative inquiry, and we invited all the stakeholders to participate in a several-month-long series of dialogues about the issues that divided us, but more importantly, to share a vision of a future in which we could work together in support of mutual goals. The sisters moderated that discussion and lent their moral voice to that effort. The result was a permanent change in the way the housing department and landlords related to one another. Instead of pointing fingers, we developed a relationship that respected differences and sought solutions that continues to this day. I don't believe that could have happened without the support of the sisters. I expect us to stand with the Sisters of St. Francis and continue to raise our voices, forming community collaborations, building consensus, working for social justice, and for a society that offers opportunity to all.
Good afternoon. What I expect from the Dubuque Franciscans is precisely what we all need from the Dubuque Franciscan, and that is to continue the legacy that we have seen depicted here today in the video and in the testimonies that have been given. We need you, sisters, to be a lighthouse in a sometimes very dark world. You know, the world is suffering from so many forms of darkness, including war, violence, inhospitality to immigrants who are just seeking a better life. There is the darkness of the destruction of our Earth's resources, which may lead to our very own destruction because of pervasive greed. There's the darkness of policies that keep the poor destitute and make the rich richer. And there is the darkness of the abuse of women and children, and the list goes on. While the darkness can seem so pervasive at times that we're tempted to withdraw into hopelessness, there is a light that we see in the lives of those who are visionary people committed to follow another path, one that reflects the divine light. One such group is the Dubuque Franciscans, as you shine by your example and by your lives. What I have observed, especially in recent years, is the way that you sisters have embraced differences and refrained from vilifying those who do not agree with you. I see you seeking common ground of unity among all people and all creation. You recognize that the evil in this world is rooted in dualism. Me versus you, we are better than them, we are right, they are wrong, we are more important than the rest of creation. As the video states, and as you have already demonstrated this afternoon, Dubuque Franciscans are rooted in prayer, which is the contemplative vision of the oneness of all of creation and all humanity, that all may be one. This is the bright light that uncovers the lie of separateness and divisiveness. This vision is the hope that keeps us from giving up. It is the beacon that shows the rest of us where to look and what to look for. You know, come to think of it, this witness you give is not without precedent. In addition to Mother Xavier, in the 13th century, there was a beacon of light from Francis and Clare that thoroughly changed the landscape of a church in a world that was falling into dark ruin at the time. So, sisters, keep doing what you're doing and being who you are. You know, I observe this from the inside, and I remember sometimes wondering if what we were doing made a difference. Now that I've been on the outside for a while, I can attest it does not go unnoticed. You are a shining light so the rest of us can make our way and reflect the light of others throughout the next 150 years. Thank you.
It's hard to imagine what might be expected of any one of us in just the next 10 years, with things changing as rapidly as they are. But there will be change. So let me tell you what I expect of our Dubuque Franciscans in terms of change. When new things come along, and they're coming along in all areas constantly, be they new methods of communication, new ways to do sustainable work, whatever it is, if the new seems to hold promise for the sisters, especially in terms of their ministries or in terms of their living of their community life, they will not shy away from it. They will evaluate it, and if it is determined to be right for them, they will embrace the new. This is who our sisters are. Let me share a short story. An elderly sister told me about a time 20-some years ago when she had a serious illness, thought she might die, and felt ready to die. Then she broke into a smile, and with great joy she told me how happy she is to still be alive and that she's had these extra 20 years. Why? Because of all the new things she's learned and still learning, and the new things she's experienced in these extra years. It is this spirit of joyful embrace of the new that moves the Sisters of St. Francis today, and I expect that this spirit will continue to carry them into their ever unfolding future. Let me share with you another way that I like to perceive or think about the Dubuque Franciscans. The Dubuque Franciscans are today, and I expect them to always be, prophets. Prophets who walk among us, calling attention to injustice wherever they see it, and gently nudging all the rest of us to action on behalf of the oppressed. Also, the sisters are today, and I expect them to always be, mystics among us, seeing as they do the deeper reality of the oneness of all creation and encouraging every person to prayerfully seek to deepen her or his consciousness of this unity. Our Dubuque Franciscans are truly gift to the world. This is who they are now and who they ever shall be. Thank you.
Well, there are many others who could stand up here and offer an answer to that question. In fact, probably any other could give a better answer than I. I've only been here a little over a year, but it's long enough to see what the sisters mean to the not just the city of Dubuque or the Archdiocese of Dubuque, but to this whole area and beyond, in other parts of the country and the world. I would start by saying that I'm a firm believer that the practice of our faith must go beyond the walls of a church on Sunday, but is practiced just as much, if not more importantly, practiced outside the walls of a church on Monday and Tuesday. That the practice of our faith has certainly a goal that we should grow in our imitation of Christ and find ourselves one day happily in heaven. But before then, on the way there, to make this world in which we live a different place, a better place. And there are three words, three themes that come to mind when I think of the Dubuque Franciscans and what they have done to make the world a different place, a better place. Service. The Dubuque Franciscans, by their own service, their commitment to stand with the poor, their commitment to serve those in need, have inspired others to do countless hours, literally countless hours, of service to others. And that's part of whether it's a Dubuque Franciscan or anyone who bears the name Christian, to inspire others to do likewise, to stand with the poor and to serve those in need. Second, joy. The joy in this room. The joy that you experience any time at least every time I've been up on the hill. Even you could see the joy in the video of the history of the sisters. I hope I don't offend by this, but there was one of the sisters in that early band, in that big habit, and you think, well, how could somebody be happy having to wear that? But she had a big ear-to-ear smile on her face, which I'm sure came from something from deep within, from the work, the service that she was doing, from the faith that she had, that mystical element that was mentioned. Third, you can't think of St. Francis or the Dubuque Franciscans without thinking of the poor or poverty. It is thankfully a theme that Pope Francis has raised up. I want a church that is poor, a church for the poor. It's I think a big question that a lot of people seek to answer. Well, what does that mean? What does that look like? And I think that you can go up on that hill and that's what it looks like. Sure, the building, yes, even the building, but also and most especially what goes on inside of the buildings. For myself, I believe that gospel poverty is translated in an understandable way as a shared life. That's what it looks like. Those buildings and that life within, that's what it looks like when people live gospel poverty, when they live a shared life, when they consider not only my own wants or needs, but also the wants and needs of others, when people are cared for because they're cared about, and nobody has to worry about being left out of that circle of care because of that shared life. It's this earth we live in, the jingle in our pocket, the clothes on our back, the food on our table. Very nice food, by the way, thank you very much. It's not mine. It's ours to be shared. So, until Jesus comes again, who knows when that's going to be, for the next 150 years, whether there are 1,000 Dubuque Franciscans or at least 2, there you can find service, joy, and a shared life that, when lived authentically, completely, will most definitely make this world a different place. And I believe a better place, even just by those 3 elements. May it be so. Amen.
Thank you. Gracias, Dankeschön, come on in Vietnamese. We have truly been blessed, honored, inspired, and challenged by the hopes and dreams for the Dubuque Franciscans for the next 150 years, given by first our video speakers from afar, and then by you, our esteemed panelists. Thank you again. I'm Sister Kate Katoski. I am honored, privileged to be president of the community for this in our 150th year and to serve with a great leadership team. Thank you to all of you for journeying with us over many of these past 150 years. You've known us in many roles, in many places, in many services. You've watched the changes in our lives, especially since the Second Vatican Council in the 60s. The Council called us to return to the gospel, to the spirit of our founder, and to adapt to the changing conditions of our times. Our faithful effort to comply with that call of the Church led us in many new directions. It led us, in most religious congregations, to remove our habits that were the dress of ancient days. They weren't that uncomfortable. Yes, for most of us, they've been gone for 45 years. Many returned to their baptismal names, claiming the mission responsibilities of all Christians. We were called to re-examine our ministries in light of a preferential option for the poor. We went from being church workers to laborers in the vineyard, in dozens of different fields and neighborhoods worldwide. As we've aged and life has changed, many moved from ministry with children to ministry with adults. After Vatican II, as you know and we well know, the number of those entering religious life declined radically. And our numbers continue to decline as we age into eternity. But our spirit and our commitment to sharing the Franciscan way has grown as we've been blessed with several hundred associates and Franciscan way of life participants. I invite our associates and Franciscan way of life folks to stand. We thank you for your ongoing efforts to live and grow the mission of Francis and Clare. Sociologists who studied religious communities will tell you that we don't look like we're dying. Our commitments to ministry are alive and well. How do we see ourselves going forward in the next 150 years? And many of our panelists stole everything I was going to say. Over the years, of our ongoing search of why we were founded and who we were most called to be has led us to believe that as followers of Jesus, we are called to a prophetic way of life. This being prophetic doesn't mean that we can foretell the future, so don't call and ask us about that. But that we proclaim, as the Spirit of the gospel leads us, where life, both in society and in church, need to change if it's to be just and faithful to the gospel and the divine Creator in whose image we all and the earth are made. As followers of St. Clare and St. Francis, we know ourselves called to live a gospel that is inclusive of all, to shared life with one another, to see life from the perspective of those on the margins, today's lepers, such as the immigrants and those caught in human trafficking, and to care for all of creation. As followers of the risen Christ, who truly, deeply believe in the presence within us of the living Spirit that inhabits our hearts and the whole of creation, we know ourselves called to contemplative living, to a prayer life and reflection into the heart of God that leads us and guides us each day. 150 years. We haven't always done things right. A few sisters may have been tough on you in school. Though I always say to somebody who has to tell me about that, but I bet you kind of deserved it. And then they say, oh yes, and I got into double trouble when I went home. And in our humanness, we too had our grouchy days. More importantly, we didn't always take a stand for what was right and just. Maybe because of our shyness or our fears, or because it wasn't politically popular. On behalf of the congregation, I ask forgiveness of you, of any whom we have harmed, and of the earth and the world for those times we have failed. Overall, I believe we were women who tried our best to be faithful to the call of our God, to each other, and to mission. Pope Francis has said, small yet strong in the love of God, like St. Francis of Assisi, all of us as Christians are called to watch over and protect the fragile world in which we live and all of its peoples. In summary, our mission statement, developed 10 years ago, added to in 2008, and reaffirmed this summer in our chapter gatherings, clearly says how we commit ourselves into the future. I invite all our sisters, associates, and Franciscan Way of Life participants here today to proclaim it with me. Rooted in the gospel and in the spirit of Saints and Clare, Sisters of St. Francis, live in right relationship with all creation. Our personal, communal, and public life, we commit to ongoing conversion as we deepen our relationship with Mother Earth and Sister Water, stand with persons who are poor, make peace and practice nonviolence. This is who we are. This is what the global community can expect of us. We are most grateful for your presence celebrating with us here today. We count on your support and your challenge for us to remain faithful. We invite you to go forward with us into the future, knowing, as Mother Xavier has said, God is with us still. Now, our associates have asked if they could stand at this point and sing what we call our Franciscan blessing for us in honor of our 150th anniversary. We receive this blessing to add to our tree of blessing for the future, for ourselves, but more importantly, for all those who will follow us in ministry in the Franciscan way of life into the future. I invite the Associates Franciscan Way of Life participants to stand and sing the blessing for us. Sorry you don't have a microphone. Thank you.
As we leave here in a couple of moments, we certainly invite you to look at the posters depicting our mission statements and our focus areas. The timeline here is of our 150 years, which coincides with what was going on in the world at that time. There are CDs of some of our community hymns, which were written by our sisters, and invite you to take one of those if you don't have one. There are additional ones available out here on the mezzanine if they're all gone from the tables. It is our God. It is our God who makes it possible for us to use our gifts to build up the church and to build up the world. And so we join together to sing a hymn which Mother Xavier and our early sisters sang 150 years ago. Would you please stand? Grosser Gott.
Thank you so very, very much for joining us this afternoon.
We invite you to join us for desserts and coffee on the mezzanine. Now, you can't all go at once. I'm sorry about that. But in the meantime, as you're waiting in line, introduce yourself to someone you've never met before, because it's our great hope that as we leave here, there are fewer strangers among us.